Wizard Tower Games. I am going live right now. I'm going to go ahead and share this live link for anybody who wants to go ahead and hop on in. This is my first live, my Tuesday night lives. I hope everybody is having a good Tuesday night. So I am doing my little live here. So I'm getting hooked up right now, sharing it along to everybody. It'll be I'll get better at this. Sitting here waiting for some people to hop in. If anyone does, if they don't, they don't. How you doing, RPG Grandma? Hope everything is good with you. I wanted to do a little bit of talk about death and dying in role-playing games. That's what's up tonight. And also resurrection. And um, I actually took my cue. I saw an interesting video by DM Bloodworth. Relaxing legs for dinner. Hope dinner's a good one tonight. What you making? We had homemade tacos. You are an experienced role-playing gamer, RPG Grandma. I really would like to hear your feedback and whoever else jumps in about this. Oh, that sounds good. I love Chinese food. Now, to me, I've been gaming since '77. Um, and with me, I think that one of the core things about role-playing games that make them so much fun is, actions have consequences. And I think one of the biggest, well, not I think, I see a lot online now, especially with newer players, fifth edition, and I'm sure it's going to be in this new edition that Wizards of the Coast is putting out. That I guess more and more GMs and DMs and players are not wanting to have death or dying within the game. Um, the problem that I have with that is that one of the core tenets of role playing is you're fighting, you're delving in dungeons, you're exploring ruins, you're battling monsters, you're fighting other players that you meet on the road, maybe, or maybe bandits, who knows. And the problem that I have with it all is with this whole no death concept is what is the counterbalance then to poor play. Consequences are absolutely important. The players need to feel the fear. And RPG Grandma, you nailed it on the head there, I think. Um, that's exactly what it is. I mean, I have played D&D, oh geez, 45 years now, and I have lost so many player characters. I've lost player characters as first level, PCs, and I actually lost, I think the highest level character I ever lost was a 10th level. It was a fighter magic user, so a pretty powerful player character, and I remember it distinctly. And I was killed due to my own stupidity. My own action had a consequence. Now, when my player character died, did I have a a how do I want to put this? Did I have a um uh, bad reaction? Yeah, I was mad about it, but I didn't throw a fit, and I realized that actions have consequences to it. Um, and without that, and you make another good point. You said that consequences are absolutely important. The players need to feel the fear. Then they can feel heroic when they succeed. And you're right. And see, there's where it's at with me is you have a character. what stops you just from doing anything that you want if death is not an option? So I can go into a dragon's den and I can fight a dragon, or I can go into a band of orcs as a first level character and just fight them until they die or I die, which is a first level character, I would die very quickly. So I can just go about and do anything happily in my player character's life. And also, you made another point. So I can't remember all my dead PCs. I can't remember them either, but I do remember the highest level character I ever had killed, and that was my 10th level. Between that, I'm with you, RPG Grandma. I lost a lot of PCs. Now, Vic is trying to go in. Vic Dorso. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let him go on this with me. And hey, Vic, if you're there.
Yes.
Okay, you are on live with me right now.
Uh-oh.
Right. So if you don't want to go live, I'll tell you, I'm going to pull you out of this. Just go ahead and sign in and join the chat, okay?
Okay.
I'm on YouTube, man. All right. Vic's camera shy. So, but I guess my question for you and whoever else joins here is, GM Bloodworth made kind of a really strong worded video. He basically, what he said is that you're not really a DM if you allow it. Now, I think looking at the counterbalance of it is this. Let's say I have a game where I say death is off the table. You cannot die. You can be knocked out, maybe you can be brought unconscious, but you're just not going to die. Like with you, RPG Grandma, I don't think that really offers anything to the game. I mean, what do you think about that? Yeah, death is inevitable. One of the biggest problems that I have with this whole conceptualization of death in gaming also is that so you have a table, let's say 4 players, you're the GM or DM, and death is off the table. There's no balance to your players, there's no balance to the game. The very innate issue with role-playing games, and the reason why I believe, and this is just with my opinion, one of the reasons why role-playing games became so popular was because not only the open-endedness of the role-playing game, we could do anything that we wanted, but also it was also like you made the comment, RPG Graham, and also Vic kind of echoed it, and that is the fear. I can tell you right now, as a 55-year-old man, when I play D&D and I'm in a situation, even though it's on pen and paper on the table, you get that little inner tinge of fear, that pause. Why do you look for traps? Why do you pause and tactically think how you're going to handle, maybe you're alone, or maybe you're with a small group and you're facing a large group of something else, some type of nasty critter? Why do you all think about this and say, how should we handle this? If death is off the table, you can just charge and do any darn thing you want. And that's the reason. Hold on. RPG Grandma said, in fact, let me see if I can click on you. RPG Grandma said also, you can have some great descriptions of what the dying PC sees as he dies. And that's exactly right. I think that's the other part of hey, Tom, if you see this now, Jetty or Tom Vrolt is trying to jump in. I'm going to go ahead and let Tom go live because he's on camera.
Hey, Tom. Hey, how you doing?
You are live with me now because you clicked the live link.
Well, I just saw that you sent me
Yep,
what's going on?
Yep. We are talking live right now about death and dying in role-playing games, and also along with that, resurrection. And I quoted GM Bloodworth's video of today where he said basically that if you allow no death in your game, you're not really a GM. And I was kind of just following up with that. We were talking with it. We got RPG Graham in here and Victor Dorso. So,
cool.
So since you wanted to go, you're on video with me. We can chat about it, both of us. How's that for a little bit? What the hell? Why not? Impromptu.
Well, I like death and dying in RPGs.
Yeah, and the thing is, after I watched GM or DM Bloodworth's video on YouTube, I went to Twitter and I actually kind of started looking around, and there are people out there that advocate that dying in a role-playing game is violent and wrong, and dying in a role-playing game is inappropriate and it teaches bad things. I hate to say it like this, but I really do think that that's kind of an asinine argument because, you know, I will say that as a GM or a DM, there's nothing wrong with catering a game to your small group of players. You know, and I'm gonna say it like this. Like as an example, if I had a group of players at my table and I knew that one of the players had an issue in their life at one time with SA as an example, sexual assault, I would not have, even though I don't now, but let's say I was playing a module where maybe there, or a homemade module or something someone made, I wouldn't have any content like that in there because it'd be a little bit of mutual respect for the person. I don't want to bring back any traumatic memories. But death, I think, in Dungeons and Dragons and role-playing in general is an intimate part of the game itself, the mechanics, because, again, like RPG Grandma so truthfully said, is actions have consequences.
Mm-hmm.
And, Vic Dorso just said, bodies recovery, RPG Grandma, they're lucky to escape with those lives. Now, I know Vic, and Victor plays D&D every week, and I know that Victor is a damn good DM, and he really is hardcore with his players. I believe that. But also, like, again, right, what she says is by having death in your game, two things can happen. Number one, you can counterbalance death by having resurrection, but also it allows players maybe to get that revenge, like a character was killed, an important, a party member or something. And also there's another aspect to it is what happens if you have a group of 4 or 5 players and one of your players die for real? They get in a car accident, they have a heart attack, something horrible happens to them, and you have that lone PC. Do you just simply retire the PC off? I mean, which I respect. I mean, let's put his PC on the wall, put it on, on a frame at the table because we all love the guy or gal and respect him. But also it can be used to move that character out of the game at that point if you want to do it that way. Although I would not personally, if my friend passed away, is kill his character, but
yeah.
But resurrection, I think, to kind of jump into that aspect, I think that can be a good segue then, because with resurrection, you can bring your characters back. Now, I personally, I don't know how you guys play, but in my games, resurrection has a heavy price. The player that is resurrected, they basically, I'm hardcore. It sounds really horrible, but they lose a point of every ability score right off the top. And the reason why I do that is because, they've died, they've traumatically died. So what is when they're brought back, they're not going to be brought back whole to me. So what I do is I make them deduct 1 point of strength, intelligence, wisdom, dexterity, constitution, and charisma. And then on top of that, I basically take away 1d10 hit points. And that's what happens to them. Now, how do you do resurrection, and how do you handle it yourself?
I've never done resurrection.
Let's bring a third one in. How you doing, Vic?
Oh, surviving the battles here.
It's
okay.
Big Vic.
Hey, Tommy.
So how do you handle resurrection, Tom?
Well, I'm getting echo. Vic, take it for a minute while I switch this out.
Resurrection. What's that? My characters never have another time to do that, and if they do, they've got to spend a boatload of money in the local Greyhawk or wherever setting we're at temple, and they must spend oodles of money to get somebody to come back. We're talking
Agreed, RPG Grandma, by the way.
minimum 20,000 gold pieces just to bring somebody back from the dead. And then, is it worth it?
Do
Most
you?
likely
But
not.
my question is this. Okay. How do you handle though? Is there a time limit to it?
Oh yeah, you got body decay and everything else. I mean, you got to think of those things. I mean, if they're 100 miles from the nearest church, how many days is it going to take for them to drag that body all the way there?
Mm-hmm. That's why I yanked 1 point across the board on their ability scores. Is because I take in consideration that even if they die and they're down for a couple of days, there is something that happens. What about you, Tom?
Well, I'm just thinking about resurrection in terms of
bad echo here.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the echo.
Vic, let me try something. I'm going to pull you out alive real quick.
Okay.
Just temporarily, okay?
Just mute him.
Hold on a minute. Is that better?
I think that's better.
Yeah, Vic, it's you.
The sound
Troublemaker.
is being picked up by his microphone and then rebroadcast back. That's where the echo's coming. But I'm thinking that.
Hey Vic, hold on. I'm not trying to be rude. You're causing us to echo.
All right, let me turn it down. Let me see if that's better.
How's that?
Is that better? Test. Is that better?
Test.
Nah, it's still echoing, my friend.
All right, I'll drop out.
Get in the chat, okay, friend?
Well, I'll try to go downstairs. I'll use my other microphone downstairs.
Perfect.
I'll be right back.
Yep.
Thinking about resurrection in terms of RPG, I've never used it in a game. Number one, but also thinking back to my days in seminary of the biblical examples of resurrection, it's a miracle. And as a miracle, I heard a joke once. Jesus never preached a funeral because he just kept raising the dead. There's three examples of him showing up at a funeral and funeral's over. Lazarus, obviously, is everybody knows that one, but there's widow of Nain and Jairus's daughter. And they're completely, so I don't see the need necessarily. And that might just be my religious background and having gone to seminary. I don't know that I really see the need for there to be degradation. I understand the desire to enforce consequences, and I definitely like that. The one time I came really close to using resurrection, I was entertaining a plot line of an NPC has been killed, and her a significant person in her life wanted her rescued from hell. She had become one of those larva creatures in the first edition.
Yeah.
And so the mission was for the PCs to go to hell and try to locate, her larva creature and bring her back and then resurrect her. And the game never got off, but it was that was a plot line I was thinking about, but I hadn't really, I was just like, yeah, this would be cool. I was riffing off Paladin and Hell artwork, the famous picture.
Yeah.
So that's where, but I don't know that you have to have the degradation. I know that's a real RPG concept that we must enforce consequences. I don't know that you have to. I think you could play fast and loose with it for sure.
I think we're good, Vic, now on your audio.
Okay. I'm on a different computer.
But the thing, Tom, with me is this, is then don't you get kind of the opposite effect? Because what resurrection, at least in my interpretation of D&D, to me, resurrection is supposed to be something that, number one, is not flippantly done.
Sure.
And also, if there isn't some type of cost or consequence, don't you run risk then, especially when you get clerics in the upper higher levels, where they just simply say, or let me back up. Don't you run the risk of members of the group having kind of an attitude of, I can be a little bit more risky because even if I get killed, Freya can go ahead and resurrect me, right? Freya goes, got you covered, Cord. You know what I mean? And that's kind of the reason why I have the consequences like that, because what I want players to go, okay, I might be able to have it done once, but when I start having it done a second time, especially a third time, now I'm really going to end up kind of counter. I think I just best stay dead and start back at level 1.
Yeah, I see your argument there. I had not thought about this before, and as you proposed it, I started thinking back to, all right, well, I know of 4 instances of resurrection in a literary sense, i.e. the Bible, and I was just thinking, I don't know that you have to have that. However, I do like having consequences. I think what I would do is I would make that resurrection is just not a spell you can cast whenever, no Oprah Winfrey, you get a resurrection, none of that. But it's a ritual that's done at a temple by high level clerics, but it's not something you can just get at the snap of a finger.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I agree with. And I think that what makes a discussion like this really amplified is what we're basically all we if I'm getting this right, with Vic, and correct me if I'm wrong, with Vic, his attitude is, if you want it, you're going to pay for it out the nose. You are more, if I'm okay with it, because you have your religious background and you have your thought process on it. And my thought process on it is kind of, well, if you want it, there's going to be a cost, but not so much financial. It's going to be more physical. So we kind of have a triangle of people here that are echoing something very important about Dungeons and Dragons. And I get in trouble all the time when I invoke this online. And that is, in the Appendix E, Dungeon Master's Guide, Gary Gygax, the man himself, says, essentially, I'm paraphrasing, you want to make your game the way you want it, you want to change your rules, go right ahead. Be consistent and do it if it works for you. And I think that is the core concept behind Dungeons and Dragons and role-playing in general that really made it popular. Go ahead, Vic. I think you got a comment.
Okay. Number one is raise the dead, or there's raise the dead and there's resurrection. We got both of those in Dungeons and Dragons. And there's reincarnation. Okay. We all know reincarnation can be a humdinger. you can bring
it's a crapshoot.
Yeah, you say,
just
okay, I'm gonna
roll the dice.
I'm gonna reincarnate this person. Fine, go for it. The Dungeon Master has the ultimate dice roll behind the scenes to go, you come back as a weasel,
Yep.
or whatever. But then you've got resurrection, which is what's that, 8th level spell, 9th level spell?
I think it's a 9th.
Resurrection is resurrection is a 7th level spell. I'm just looking at it.
It's a 7th?
That affects the cleric itself that's saying it. You've got to be at least, 14th level, something like that. Number one is, why would they even consider doing that? Think about it. Why would a cleric even think about doing it for some low level, 1st, 2nd, 3rd level, whatever? He's nothing. He doesn't help he hasn't done anything for their god. And if he's not part of that specific god,
but that's just the whole point, though, Vic. That's my point, is that there has to be consequences. Number one, I believe, that are physical, but also you bring up a good point about tying into the rules of, is it based upon party loyalty? Like if us three are adventuring and Tom's the second level, you're the cleric, and I'm a ninth level, chances are you would put more stock into resurrecting me because I offer more to the party. But also, if we are all three friends and are adventuring together, there's also the issue of, well, Tom may be low level. No offense, Tom. But the thing is Tom is still a friend and a member of the party. So
It also is, you also, gentlemen, you also got to consider what alignment you are too. I mean, if you're all chaotic, if you're all evil, or let's say somebody is evil, are you going to, if you're an evil priest that's been in disguise all this time or whatever, do you really want to bring back somebody like that? I mean, you're going to collect their hoard, you got some money sitting there. If you got some serious cash or something that somebody wants, they're greedy or whatever, it's like, who cares? I can write this person off. I can go get her somebody else,
I want to interject something here. If in Victor's world you pay through the nose to get resurrection, it kind of gives a little bit of a TV preacher, TV evangelist kind of feel to the priest and Victor's
I really want to
maybe.
live, my child. That's
right. But look at the spells, guys. It's 17th level cleric. The guy is gonna, if he can make a bundle of cash for his church, and you're
also would the god also approve of him using that spell?
Well, that's another part of it. That's another function. Mm-hmm. The more money you pay, the more likely, he's going to be like praying to his God and say, hey, this could really help the church. And, it's just one of those things. You know what I'm saying?
But see, that's where I think the GM comes into play. I think that's where the GM can become creative. Just like with Resurrection, if you're deep in a dungeon, and, if I'm a dungeon master and you're in my dungeon and you're 3 or 4 levels down and a player dies and someone says, oh, I'm going to resurrect this guy. There's a process. So you have a problem now. Resurrection is verbal. It's also somatic and it's material. Mm-hmm. So the thing is how are you going to get the goodies in order to make it happen? Number one, it's a long process to begin with. And I'll tell you what, as a GM, I can interrupt your little resurrection attempt very easily with wandering monsters. If I want to be a jerk, not that I'd ever do that as a DM.
John, who's going to let a 17th level cleric be wandering around in the wilderness? He's not going to be wandering around. I mean, it's just one of those things. In my campaign, anything over like 8th level, I mean, you've got hanger-oners, you've got followers, you've got blah, 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 and you're basically occupying a castle or keep or something and doing something like that. You're not out there. So these first level, low level characters are going to have to figure out how to get that body to that resurrectionist and pay him enough money to get him to back alive. And then you've got the God factor. I mean,
but also RPG Grandma makes a good point here. There's also transmutation. Mm-hmm. So you have a character that is almost ready to die. They're on like their last. They're going fast. If there's a transmutation spell used, then as an example, let's say you catch a rat in the dungeon. You can put that player's soul into that rat as an example. But this is your problem you run into. Let's say you keep the rat alive, you make it out of the dungeon. What do you do with the damn rat? Because you left the body in the dungeon. See, again, GM or DM Bloodworth really got into this. And, he just absolutely feels that death needs to be a part of the game. And that's the thing that interests me about all of this, is because I think that sometimes GMs or DMs use certain aspects of the game very flippantly, direction, because they don't think it out. You know, if I'm 50 leagues from the, if I'm 100 leagues in the wilderness and a player dies, I got to get that player not only to a location where there's people, but there has to be someone there to be able to resurrect that person.
All right.
Then
my
I have to be able to.
Let me just tell you what my group does, because my group is. Oh, let me just say, my group is they look through the books and they try everything on me. So I've gotten creative and I've tried to do some things, but they'll cut off lockets of hair, or if somebody lost a limb or something. They'll store it and say, okay, I've got the DNA to bring back those characters later on if need be, if I have the money. And that's fine. But look at Raise the Dead. You guys, look at the spell Raise the Dead. There is a bunch of factors there. And if you're way out in the wilderness, like my characters like to do, because I don't let them have teleport. They're teleporting, forget it. I mean, they're lucky if they get horses to travel across Greyhawk, and they never get to that point. You know what I mean? I think there's only been once that they brought back half the party, but they spent every single coin they had. Basically, they were walking around in loincloths after that. You know what I mean? So,
what you thinking, Tom? You looks like you got something on your lip.
Well, I was just thinking that it's just as problematic as the wish spell, and I've never really gotten past. I think the highest spellcaster in one of my campaigns back in the day was 12th level magic user. So, I mean, I've just never gotten to that point, and I've not invested a lot of thought in it. But I do think that there are certain spells like Wish, like Resurrection, that I don't know that they're willy-nilly, and going to be in my campaign, and that's just a choice I would make as a game master.
Tim Kask has jumped in. How you doing, Tim? Hope you're feeling better today.
Tim.
He says high risk, high reward, and that's another concept of the game that I think DMs who say no death is allowed in my game are missing. Nothing's free in the game, and in regards to your comment about Wish, does anyone here not allow any of the spells in the game? Like, as an example, saying that this is going to be a spell that's not within my game. I mean, does anyone do that?
The higher the spell, here's my rule. The higher the spell, the harder it's to find. First level spell.
Oh, yeah.
That's nothing
with that.
Ninth level spell, forget about it. You better find a scroll somewhere that came up somewhere and rip, and copy it over onto the thing. And then you still got the chance of it being wrong.
Like Tom mentioned Wish. I don't allow Wish is not allowed in my game. I don't have Wish in my games. It's too much of an open-ended. To me, the Wish spell is one of those spells or one of those things within Dungeons and Dragons that I think can become so problematic. You can use it against your players very easy. I mean, you can actually play the trope genie where, how do you want to say that again? Type thing, and really use it against you.
Don. Make them write it out. Every comma, every period, if anything is wrong in the entire thing, if it's wrong, boom, it's dead. It didn't work. That spell's gone. It's forget about it. And I've done it to players before, and they're just like, "What?" And I said, "You wrote here da 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 da. No commas, no punctuation. It's over with. It's done. It didn't happen. You burned your spell."
Tim makes a point here. He says Gary could crack a Wish better than anyone ever saw. I bet you he could. I mean, and I bet you could also, Tim. I mean, and again, for those who allow wishes within their game, I think that I'm not saying it couldn't be a fun aspect as a DM to have a player say, well, I'm going to wish for something. But the thing is the counterbalance to that is, I think, that if you have a player, and again, it's a delicate balance. I think it's just by GM. With me, I don't like wish spells. And also with me is I actually take the fireball spell and I take its area of effect and I cut it in half. That's just one of the things. I mean, I've modified some of my spells.
I love Professor Dungeon Master's thing on spells, where he's like, this is how the spell works under optimal conditions.
Oh yeah.
And so he's like, go ahead and cast it, and I'll tell you what happens, because he likes to put the master back in the dungeon master.
I've had it where they've said the spell, and I didn't tell them the size of the room, and I killed them all. Here it is. You want to throw a fireball in there? Fine. Here's what happens: the door blasts open, it wipes out your party, and we're done.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually I'm inviting Tim on in right now also for Tim can. But yeah, I think the thing is I think that's part of the fun of role playing games also. And like I said in the very beginning, I think that's one of the things that really appeal to a lot of people's, because what you could do is you can modify the game, you can modify the rules any which way you want as long as you're consistent, and you can really cater your game to your desires as a DM, but also your players.
Yeah. And also, every DM's a little different. I mean, there's some DMs that use like earth spells. If a dwarf is saying a spell or something like that, it's it's modified, and if it's an earth spell, they get a better effect with that and stuff like that. So everybody's got their way of doing things.
Yeah.
I don't think any game is a purist game in Dungeons and Dragons.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's any dungeon master out there that runs a pure game. You know what I mean? Exactly by the book.
Well, I mean, do you really want to run first edition exactly by the book?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, I mean, yes, AD&D 1E has issues. There are some issues with the rules, but I think that's also where a good player comes in, or a good DM can really shine, because what they can do is, number one, read the damn rules so you know where the problems are. And then also you can change those rules or modify them or tweak them or clean them up as you need.
Mm-hmm. Well, in my game, I've got players from, let's see here. The youngest right now is 17 through, I think, am I the oldest? No, I think Jeannie's the oldest. I think she's the oldest in her, And Mr. Cask is here. Hello, young man.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
We're talking about crock and spell. If you're talking about crock and wishes and spells, I could not stay out.
Okay. We're gonna listen to the master here then.
Well,
Tim, your take.
I learned from the master. Somebody handed Gary a page and a half, single space, pica. I'm hearing myself.
Oh, we can hear you fine.
No, but I'm hearing myself in a lag.
Oh, you sound great here.
Yep, I'm hearing myself seconds after I say it.
An echo, yeah.
I'm getting an echo feedback. Anyway, somebody gave Gary a page and a half, single space, 12-point type, okay, or pica type. He looked at it, maybe 3 minutes, and crossed it. He had written out every single thing he could possibly think of to make the wish foolproof, and he found a loophole and said, no, doesn't work. And so it didn't work the way he wanted it to. the Wisher.
Huh. But so Tim, let me ask you a question about then the wish spell.
I hate them. I
Okay,
hate the
so
witch.
so that's not a part of your games when you DM, correct?
No,
Yeah, same here.
I'm hearing you're talking over what I just said. There's
Oh.
some kind of lag going on here.
Okay. Let me see. Yeah, because just to let you know, and Tom, correct me if I'm wrong. To us, you sound fine. There's no echo or nothing, but you're getting echo probably through your mic. Probably is my guess.
Well, no, it's not an echo. I'm getting a repeat. What I said with like a 2-second delay. Again.
Okay. And Tom, your mic is now off.
So
I
anyway,
muted.
Anyway.
So yeah, it's a feedback between a speaker and a microphone. We get the same problem at church that the live stream will hear.
But I'm hearing you repeated. I'm hearing you repeated several seconds after you say it.
Because whatever speaker you're listening to emits sound, and then your microphone picks it up and puts it back through the speaker.
Tom had that problem initially also.
Yeah,
well, I can't move my speakers away from my.
Yeah.
You can try muting your microphone while you're not talking, and then that will help while you're not talking, but it won't.
Or if I put it in,
if you do headphones, it might correct it.
That's not what's going on.
Yeah. While he's sorting that out, I have a question for RPG Grandma, because I know she plays with the kids in her household. And as you were talking about death earlier, it had me thinking back to when I played with my daughters.
You're looping.
Yeah. There's an issue with the setup down there then.
Yeah.
Let me do this. Tim, I'm going to do this. I'm going to remove you and want you try clicking back in now that you have the earbuds in, okay?
All right.
So back when I played with my daughters, there was an occasion where we went to a funeral, and it caused them to ask a lot of questions about death. And so, as you were discussing this earlier, I was thinking that boy, an RPG would be a great safe place to explore themes of death and dying for the kids. And I was just curious, because I do believe RPG Grandma is playing with kids in her household on a regular basis, and I was wondering if she had any comments on that. So, but we've ground to a halt.
Yeah, I think the thing is, I think there's some lag between RPG Grandma and there she goes. She's answering it. She says it's really a safe place for that.
Yeah, I had a suspicion. I had not considered it, but man, taking my daughters to a wake and funeral when they were young sparked a lot of questions. Like,
but the thing is, I as a let's see if this fixes it with Tim. Is this better, Tim?
Well, I'm only hearing you once.
Okay, I think we're good now. Good.
Yeah, I think that's a blessing.
I think that Tom was making a point how Tom, go ahead and kind of lay it out for Tim again.
What? Okay.
Earlier we were discussing death and dying, and it got me thinking about back when I played with my daughters. About that time, we had gone to a funeral, and at that funeral, it really sparked a lot of questions from my youngest, and it just, this conversation got me thinking. Man, RPGs might be a really great place to a safe place to explore death and dying with your kids if you're playing with them.
Well, particularly if it's just their character that's dying, you can certainly get into the finality of, and in that case, I wouldn't have wishes because nothing brings you back, But yeah, that I could certainly see where that could be a good entree into that type of a discussion. Certainly.
Yeah. Without Dawn here, I'm going to read RPG Grandma's comments. She said they can really get into funerals, meaning kids.
Yeah.
Revolving that, I think she meant resolving that and exploring duties. Understand the kids in my house are survivors of their family dying. I forgot about that. And that she is their aunt and uncle. Her and her husband are their aunt and uncle. So, yeah, those kids have probably seen a lot of trauma. And how have they taken the whole, have you seen a lot of problems with that, or has RPGs helped with your kids?
Mine? No. I don't have children for kids anymore. My oldest is 50. I have great grandchildren, and I haven't started them. They're only 9 and down. I haven't started them yet.
Well, I mean, as far as
I will.
Start them young, Tim. Start them young.
Yeah, that's it. You got to indoctrinate them from the cradle.
That's right.
No mercy. Yes, you die in D&D. If you do
Yes.
something stupid, you die. And
Well,
no, you can't have a wish to come back. No.
Yeah,
You got to teach them the secret of taking down a boulet.
You will.
they can-
If I ever figure that one out, all I know is that they're weaker behind the fin on their back. Other than that, you're on your own, buddy.
insider info. I think we're getting here. People, write it down.
No, it's listed that little patch back there is a I think it's like an armor class 6, which is we're talking descending. That's fairly vulnerable. Of course, that means you got to either get up there or shoot in with a missile weapon, and that might be a little problematic. But anyway, we're talking about death.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I what brought this on, Tim, was DM Bloodworth did a video about the new trend. This new trend that a lot of people were talking about on Twitter who play 5e, and
Yes.
they don't believe. Yeah, they don't
the
believe,
invulnerable characters. Yeah.
They don't believe in dying, and they said that
Superhero
dying
doesn't
is violent. It's wrong. It teaches a bad message. I'm like, no.
No, actually, it's messages like that keep you from doing something truly stupid in life and really dying.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on.
Well, I mean-
I once had in a some chat session or something. Guy asked me, "Is it true you can really die in old school? In old original D&D?" And I go, "Yeah." And then I blew his little mind. I could hear it explode on the other end when I told him, "And if you saved for poison, you still got half damage for what it did to your nervous system."
Yeah.
You really die. And to counter that, Luke Gygax at the last GaryCon came into one of the, cool off rooms where we guys like to hang out, going, "Gee, it's so good. It's hard. You can't kill him off. They get 3 saving throws." And he was just having a fit because he'd been trying to kill off some of the characters for doing something stupid. And they had this saving throw and that saving throw and this one. And they never died. And he was terribly frustrated because I know his daddy killed him every time he screwed up. I can guarantee you. Luco and Melf and that. There was no slack cut in that house.
Tim, I've had the same thing. The 5e players that come into my campaign, the first edition campaign, and I want to do with the feet. I want to do this. I want to do that. I just look at them like, what game do you think we're playing here?
I know it. And when I get one of them, and it's usually because one of their friends that doesn't play 5e is goaded them into trying it. I can tell who they are. They're the ones that are sitting there at the end of the table appalled.
But the
Can't
thing is,
believe all this. And my wheel of blame is relatively non-lethal. I've only ever had one TPK, and we'll talk about that some other day. But they just sit down there appalled. You know, they're getting whacked, and they're getting hit, and they're getting muddy, and you know, crap's happening to them. And they're just, I can pick them out every time. They just look, they definitely have the deer in the headlight look. What have I gotten into? What's going on here?
But see, that to me though is what I think again, what really made role-playing games so popular so quickly was not only the open-endedness of it, but the fact that there was real consequences to your actions.
Well, yeah, that's why I started that high risk, high reward.
Yeah.
If you want to find a bunch of treasure, well, you got to be prepared to suffer for it. Now, I'm not one of the religious fanatics from the Middle Ages that goes around and scourges myself, not that kind of suffering. But you have to be willing to suffer.
Well, also RPG Grandma Tim made a point earlier, and like she said, sometimes a heroic death can be fun.
Oh, absolutely.
And
I see that at conventions all the time. When I used to run regular adventures, I'm certain that there was a certain percentage every time sat down at my table looking to die heroically so they could go home and tell their buddies what a wonderful heroic death they had. And that's valid, if that's why they're there. And I gave it to them if that's what they wanted. Some of them weren't quite so heroic. A couple of them were ignominious. But if they wanted to die at my table at a con so they could tell their buddies, okay, I'll grant that wish. Yeah. Easy peasy.
Yeah, and
easy.
But the thing is in talking about DM Bloodworth's video, he kind of made the argument though that any GM or DM who allows players doesn't allow death in the game, they're not really a DM. No. They're not really playing D&D. And now
they're an umpire.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I agree with him because you're more now. You're no longer a dungeon master or a game master. What you're doing is, it's more like to me like you're just a goalkeeper, a referee, a scorecard guy.
Might as well be playing Chutes and Ladders.
Well, I had a long conversation with a friend of mine today. I'd gone out to visit him. His shoulders all bunged up and he can't drive. And we got to talking about the foolishness of some of the things that go on in Dungeons and Dragons. And we got around to dragons. And we kind of agreed on the point that anybody that ever saw Game of Thrones, where her army wipes out or her dragons wipe out the Lannister army, now tell me how 8 of you are going to go down and kill this sucker
exactly
in his lair. Come on. Get real. That's like you and me taking a bamboo the practice swords for Japanese martial arts and going down to the elephant in the zoo and trying to kill that elephant with bamboo practice swords. The elephant's going to squash us into jelly and it's going to eat the swords. And that's what you better prepare for if you're going to go take on a dragon without a big gimmick, a big edge.
Well, linguistically,
so I don't have huge monsters in my games because they're only there to kill. They're only there to kill players because players can't resist attacking something they should know better. They can't.
I was about to say something really stupid. I was getting ready to say, well, they could be used as a deterrent, but yeah, you're right. Based on my history of who I played with, no, they'll go attack the damn thing.
I mean, you start a new campaign, you say, okay, there's some livestock missing over in this part of the Shire, and there's baby snatching going on over in that part, and there's a wyvern building a nest on the mountain. Where do they go? To the wyvern.
Yep.
They got no experience points, no weapons, no nothing, but they're going for the wyvern instead of going to kill the stuff that's eating the livestock and then find the baby snatchers. And along the way, hopefully pick up some better weapons and some money to buy ones. And then you go mess with the wyvern. But no, they go to the wyvern every time. So I don't even give them that option anymore. I don't. I'm not, and okay, that might be a railroad. It's not railroading if you just cut off that track.
Mhm.
That track's not available. Okay, go do stuff that you're equipped to do, and maybe stretch yourself a little, but don't go out there and figure out you're going to take on a band of trolls.
But that's the job of a really good DM. What a good DM I think does is they can also try to mitigate the stupidity of their players when needed.
But you can only do so much.
Yes,
You can
I
only
said attempt to mitigate,
only
guys.
say to the group. Now, see, my buzz phrase is when I say this, my group, my table better sit there and listen. Now, tell me again exactly what it was you're planning to do. And if that doesn't make them sit back and rethink their plan real fast, well, they deserve whatever comes.
Are you sure?
No, I'm not even. No, I'm not. No, I give it to them very soft and gentle. All right, now tell me again exactly what it is you plan to do. And so they start stammering through this, and this. We've already seen by the time they get done stammering through there, they're going to do that. You found 3 ways you could crock it if you were of a mind to just arbitrarily crock it because it's preposterous.
Mm-hmm.
So you let them try the least preposterous. And then if they die, they blame you anyway.
Now, Vic, you said you had something to say, I think, here.
Oh, I use Gary's charts in the back of the book, and I'm using the Greyhawk supplements. And they're wandering around the country. Whatever they encounter, last Saturday, they encountered a pride of lions that tore them to hell. And I'm like, guys, they're going to tear you to hell. Why are you effing around with them? Why did you run? No answer. They just
because they're PCs.
Well, there's a collective stupidity that can settle over a group like a miasma. I've seen it happen. Jim Ward evokes this kind of stuff better than anybody I've ever seen. I sat down next to Jim one day while he was running a game and watching a party of 7 players die because they refused to step over these little things that are like 2.5 feet tall that were hardly mobile at all. There was like 80 or 90 of them that emitted radiation, and they thought they'd kill them all. All they had to do was step over them and walk away. Every single one of them died of radiation poisoning. Every single one. It's like, hey, it's not working. Come up with what's plan B.
Yeah.
Now, quick question for Tim. How do you handle, first of all, do you allow resurrection in your games?
Under rare circumstances, if like not out in the wilderness, obviously, because a corpse is going to rot before you get it back anywhere.
Bingo.
But if you're in a big metropolitan area or reasonably fairly near a big monastery or a big religious, foundation of some sort, perhaps. But that would also be very rare. Oh, gee, you just happen to be within 1 day's march. If they're there, but no.
But I'm interested to know something is, like I was explaining we were all talking about the consequences of resurrection. I believe that if a player is resurrected, there's a certain toll that's taken on that player. So I've modified my rules. Like what I do is they take 1d10 life points permanently removed from them. Okay. And also they take 1 point off of every single one of their ability scores permanent.
Oh, you're lenient.
Yeah.
I hit him up on Constitution.
I was getting ready to say, what do you do?
Strength. I hit him up on Constitution. I hit him up on Strength. Depending upon how dead they were and how long, because that kills me too. Are you dead at 0 or are you dead at -10? No, you got no hit points left. You didn't evade the fatal blow. You're dead. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, having clarified that, well, there's so many ways you can take this. I don't like resurrection. Well, for one thing, that's the whole reason I changed the way the clerics work in my world. I'm a little hinky about fooling around in that religious aspect of the game. Okay? Because you get some people that get really into it, and they've got a hierarchy in whatever temple they're into and all that. Oh, okay. But I'd rather just kind of gloss over that because those nuns did a horrible job on me for 8 years and made me skeptical of everything religious. And so resurrection, that's something that can only be, that's a direct divine intervention thing. So I never had one in any campaign I ever ran. I never allowed one because it never came up that they had the wherewithal or somebody that could do it. It should be so exceedingly rare that if you do come back with all those minuses, you find a nice tavern and they stand you to drinks for the rest of your life. You're the guy that came back from the dead. Why would you go back into the dungeon and risk that again?
That was kind of my overall
retire that character.
That's kind of my overall theory behind why I do what I do, is because I want the players, or I want the player who dies to really go, do I really want to, is it really worth coming back? Because the average players doesn't have a bunch of 18s. I mean, let's just face it, if they're being truthful.
Yeah, if you got honest players, yeah.
They
might have one if they got lucky, or they might have buffed one up to their some act. But see,
well, isn't that different in 5e?
I don't know. I could care less. I'm not being flippant. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I have nothing to do with 5e. I barely recognize it as a game that I helped write 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I barely recognize it.
Now
it's got some of the same trappings, but they wear the same clothes, but I don't see it. In my world, clerics don't cast spells. Spells, they have the aura of being occult and not just divine. So in my world, clerics say prayers, and they happen to know all the prayers. They just happen to have the same names as the spells, but they don't have to. They don't have to choose at the beginning of the day what they're taking with. They have that capability to use out of their prayer book. That's the way I like to use a cleric.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and of course, as a mobile field aid station, of course.
Yeah.
Here, have another Red Bull, because I treat heal spells like Red Bulls, big ones and little ones.
Gotcha.
Now take a Red Bull and some potion of ogre strength. Well, it's probably going to have some really bad side effects.
Mm-hmm.
But you can have, in my games, you can drink Red Bulls the whole time. I don't care if you drink 8 of them before it's over. Mm-hmm. It's cure light, cure heavy, whatever. I don't care. I'm not there to kill them. We're there to have fun.
Yeah.
And if they happen to die because they did something stupid and don't have any more Red Bulls, then I have something called the universal antidote. All right, what?
I got a question for you, Tim. Have you ever had them mix healing potions and then you do the side effects that Gary put in the dungeon master?
Not healing, not if they're heals. Heals are heals, and heals in my opinion, heals are beneficial. They're not henbane. Okay, they aren't using digitalis. That's something you might use in a resurrection spell, but not in a heal. But now you take healing and other stuff. I don't necessarily follow the chart. I have much more fun making up results on my own.
Oh, okay.
So you don't go taking a haste and a heal, because then you're going to scab over so fast you crack when you move. And I would have fun with that. Oh, I would have fun with that. Oh yeah. So,
I just had to ask because I was contemplating that in my game, because every time they go to town, they're like, okay, we gotta get healing potions. Well, different chemists, different healing potions.
No, I figured no, it's like buying different brands of aspirin.
Yeah.
Okay, it's all good. Now, whether you use the ingredients found in the Amazon, or the ingredients found in the Teutoburg forest in Germany, or the ingredients found in a bog in Scotland, it's all folk medicine for the good. And so that's what I just kind of gloss over that. Heal is a heal is a heal. Doesn't matter if it's a Red Bull or what brand it is. It's an energy drink. Now, if you take a lot of them, you might start running around buzzing and bumping into things. Just kind of sit there and jitter.
But see, you're what you're saying to me interests me because a buddy of mine that I used to game with, he was the opposite. Healing potions were some of the toughest things to get your hands on.
Well, if I was in my camp, if I was running my campaign again, they're not willy-nilly. And if you're lucky, you might find a hedge wizard that can make up some, or a benevolent old lady who knew, cures and herbs and that. But the way I play now with the Wheel of Blame, it's meant to be a grueling, think outside the box. And so, I'm going to give you a full box of Band-Aids. And if you use up all the Band-Aids and still don't make it, okay, you did it your best.
Hey, Tim, this would be a really good chance for me to ask a question that was asked about by me of you.
Oh.
I actually had...
what'd you say?
I'll call you after the video, Tim, okay? I'll tell you the truth, okay?
Okay.
But the thing is, his name is Steve. He watched one of your videos with me. He's a good friend of mine. I've known Steve for 20 years. And you mentioned Wheel of Blame, and he said, what exactly is it? So for people who are watching this that don't really know, explain, what is the Wheel of Blame exactly? How does it work?
It's a D&D scenario that I dreamed up for conventions. Before I got cancer, I had a TPK rate that was somewhere above 80% at cons.
Oh, wow.
And I was going to 5-6 cons a year. And I didn't care. If they were stupid, they died. I was completely neutral. But it was pointed out to me that, that sometimes people spend a large amount of money to sit into the game. So I did two things. I invented this way back at Carbondale. It was a universal antidote, and it would put a head back on a neck, or an arm back on a trunk, or a leg back on a torso. And it was just a means of the convention, so the poor bugger who screwed up didn't have to get up from the table and leave. 1 hour into a 4-hour adventure. Well, I get some of those. The wheel is, there's pre-gens that are all relatively potent dudes in the old school. They're all 4th, 5th, 6th levels. A couple of them are multi-levels. They have all got some nice weapons they've acquired over the years and that. And you go to the wheel to prove yourself. You've either been sent there by somebody who has the power that you pissed off that can make you go, or you choose to go to put it on your resume that I survived the Wheel of Blame. Okay. There's not a lot of killing. There's a lot of outside the box. There is a fair amount of dying, but that's why I give them a ton of potions.
Is it a real wheel?
Yes, they're inside a giant wheel,
okay,
like an enormous space station. It's 180 yards wide, and it goes up as high as until you can't see where the lights even. When you look at something, it might look to be 2 kilometers off, but by the time you walk the curve in the wheel, you're a little over 3. So I use it as a wheel. The wind always blows from behind the players, so they can never sneak up. So, it's tough. And I give them puzzles. I don't give them 12 ogres to kill. The Wheel of Blame is based on what somebody gives me on a card, a note card, 2 things, and then out of each card, I make an encounter. 7 players, okay. 7 encounters. And if I do it really well, I hear at the end, oh, you mean I died on my own card? And that to me is music to my ears. Now, they didn't stay dead because of the parameters of the game. But and the blame part comes in after we're done playing. We go through the encounters one by one, and I read the card that inspired it, and whoever wrote the card has to take the blame.
Gotcha.
And the coins you need to get off the Wheel of Blame have my picture, my face on one side, and on the other side, it's not my fault. So it's never my fault. That's cool. I don't roll the player's dice. Only dice I roll is initiative for the quote monsters, which don't have to be scaly and horrifying. Just anybody that isn't a player. That's it. really horrible word that has been used all these years. You know, I mean, a guy walking down the hall is a monster because he's not a player character.
Mhm.
Dumb. Anyway, the whole thing of the wheel is to think your way through with a minimum amount of bloodshed and make it through to the other side. And then we go through one by one. This is what we did. I've run it online. I've run it for a group in I'm thinking about not Evo, the other Japanese island, Okinawa. I've run it 6 times for different players, many of them the same each time on Okinawa. I run it on my YouTube channel, or I just set it up on my YouTube channel. I send the pre-gens to the group leader with an outline of what they'll be expected to do. It's a real easy game. If you think I'm on your card, you can't help, because that would be metagaming. I've run it quite a few times online. I run a 4-hour game for 7 people. I charge $90. And I send the pre-gens out, and that's what you use. Another thing I like doing, I started doing this in the last year and a half or so, is at these games, I tell them, okay, get out your pencils. Now write down the side of your pre-gen sheet, all the odds and ends crap you're going to have with you. Because I assume you've got ropes and pitons and torches and all that crap, no 10-foot poles. But if you're going to, I had Gary Con, somebody polished off the last monster with a 12-inch iron skillet. And he had it with a pound of butter and a seasoning rack.
You discussed that skillet a while back on the phone.
Yeah, I
agree.
I've had an iron skillet used twice to very good effect.
Yeah,
very good effect.
I actually added
bag
a
of
skillet
mice
to my upcoming game product. I'm coming out, Equipment Decks. I put a skillet in there.
Why not?
Why? Yeah.
Why not? If you can make a fire, you can eat. If you ran out of rations, this guy was a gourmet cook. Though he had butter and seasoning and all kinds of stuff. But I've had people bring truly odd stuff, and I tell them, look, you say you're going to do this and such. If it's on your sheet, it's okay. Now, if I look over in your sheet and it looks a little heavy, well, I might just go over and close my eyes and cross off a bunch of stuff, so nobody abuses it. And I've had some of the funniest results out of the oddest things that players bring with them. It adds a whole new element of the fun. Because if you're not having fun, you shouldn't be doing this. As everybody knows, my slogan is: remember, the fun's the thing.
The thing, yeah.
If you're not having fun, find something else.
And as a sneak peek, that quote is actually in The Lost Adventures of Gary Con, underneath Tim's signatures that he just loves doing.
Oh no, I won't. No.
Come on, Tim, we're live. Okay, you got to say yes to that.
Right? Oh yeah. No. I don't mind doing it. You can't do 300 signatures at once, because what you end up with doesn't look anything like what you started with. Yeah. Because it's a human tendency to go faster. So, I can do 15, 20 at a time. It's a nice, clean, my signature. Looks like a book. You'd stop me in the hall and I'd sign a Gary Con. But to do 300 of them, I can do so many at a time. I have to stop. I used to be a calligrapher. I studied calligraphy in college. And there's exercises you use for your hands to warm up to do this kind of stuff. And so that's what I found. I'm doing those exercises. Okay, and then I sit down and I'll do 225. That's about all I have done yet.
No worries. Now, RPG Grandma makes a good point. She says she sports thread of PCs to improvise weapons. And, I think that...
Sure.
Yeah, I really love it when a player takes something unconventional and they do something different with it, or they weaponize something. I had, as a matter of fact, recently I had a game where I wasn't the DM. I was actually one of the PCs, and a buddy of mine, he lost his weapons. And we were in a room, and he's like, what's around here? And they mentioned that there was a table. And he actually made the DM mad. He goes, okay, I'm going to go ahead and bust apart the table. And the DM was like, why? He goes, because I don't have a bloody weapon, so I'm going to freaking
Take a table leg and beat somebody with a table leg.
Yeah, and the DM kind of gave him a hard time, and we were all like, "Wait a minute here, that's a club."
Why not?
Yep.
Why not?
I had a
Oh, go ahead.
I had a player ask me if his character could have a crowbar. It was not in his toolkit in Star Frontiers, and I said, "Yeah, sure, you can have a crowbar." And he used it as a weapon. He used it as a lockpick.
And I applaud that type of behavior, and I don't regret telling him yes. I like to see a player stretch himself and find a new way to do something.
I
That's
actually,
the teacher,
as a
that's the teacher in me.
well, actually,
I mean,
as a DM, I'll give a player bonus XPs if they do stuff like that.
Oh, in
because they're
Genius?
Yes.
Yeah, I call them
Absolutely.
genius points. Genius
Yes.
points, yeah.
I've had them break a 10-foot pole and make them into staffs and use them as staffs. So I mean, it's like, oh, it's a pole. I don't care. Now it's a staff.
Well, see, I don't allow 10-foot poles on the Wheel of Blame
Oh, okay.
because there's a transition between each of the adventures that you kind of get disoriented and you're kind of transported or whatever. It's part of the game.
Okay.
And so if you stank in this one, you might not stink in the next one. I let them stuff their pockets with emeralds the size of pigeon eggs. I don't care because they can't take them off the wheel, but it makes them happier in hell while they're doing it. Why
Mhm.
not? It's so fun.
And that right there,
they clank.
RPG Grandma had a PC use a giant frog leg bone as a weapon.
Why
I
not?
mean,
Why not?
know,
Snake Riders of the Arredondo, which is one I published with Eldritch, and
Yep.
we've talked about doing the sequel. Somebody killed one of the apes and beat the other two apes up with the leg bones of the ape. They killed one ape and pulled his leg off and clubbed the other one insensible.
Mhm.
Clubbed the third one, got back to the first one and killed him with a leg with a leg, and it still had the meat on it. Well, some of the meat. It didn't have much meat after the second whack, but pick up a stick, throw a rock,
Mhm.
find some weird piece of something and an andiron and make it into a weapon. Okay, great, beautiful. And of course, I'll give them a fair roll to see if it's going to work. No reason it shouldn't. Then they got to really roll crappy to not make it work. And once they do, it's theirs until they can find something better.
Mhm.
Why not? And those are the things that I like to reward genius points, thinking outside the box points.
Yeah,
Mm.
and I think there's the whole conceptualization of role playing games. Why not?
Yeah, it's all fantasy. Christ's
Yeah.
sake, we made it all up.
But see, but that goes right back to the whole beginning point of this new way that people are playing D&D, where they say death can't be a part of the game because of the negativity of it. And I noticed there's a cycle with D&D. First it was the tropes of ogres and orcs and dark elves, what that represented.
Oh
People claim,
God!
which is total
And that was
bullshit.
the biggest crock of shit
Yep,
ever. I can
agreed.
tell you, I was there. We did not make ogres to be black people. We did not make trolls to be Mexican people. I mean, it was the farthest from our mind.
And the thing
know.
is, I've been playing since 1977, and I can tell you right now, I never, except one time at a game shop, saw anything racial, bigoted, or anything. And the incident at the game shop was actually just two guys who did not like each other. One was white, one was Hispanic, and they started popping off racial comments at each other. That's the only thing I ever saw. And other than that, I've seen people at
It's the
gaming
threat of dying that makes people cooperate.
exactly. And I guess I just do not understand how you can pull death out of now we'll pick on Dungeons and Dragons. I don't understand how you can remove death from D&D and have a game that has any type of fun or flow to it, because that's
Or
just
any
like
challenge.
Yeah, that's like saying, well, we're gonna play D&D, and in my game, Magic users can have any amount of spells that they want from any level, starting at level 1.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
the current edition and the way it's played, I don't really hardly recognize. I know bad grammar. I don't hardly recognize it as
Mhm.
D&D.
Mhm.
There has to be risk. There has to be reward. When you take the time to legitimately build up a first level character up to 6th or 7th, which are where roughly where my pre-gens are, you've got a lot of time invested.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of adventuring invested. You're not going to just run in willy-nilly and get that character killed off if you know he can die. You're going to be crafty. When I was playtesting a bunch of stuff that I ended up writing for Eldridge, I had a group locally that I had some later edition players that just sat there. And I guess they were waiting for their skills and abilities to bing, bing, a light bulb go off over their head and that. You could tell they were later edition because they didn't ask questions. And if you're going to play role playing and you don't ask questions, you're a fool.
Mhm.
You deserve to die.
Well, what's really interesting about
It's
the
all about
contrast,
gathering information.
yes, but the contrast between, I'll use AD&D and 5e. What's really interesting about it is like, and I'm not doing a product plug, it was something I noticed doing it, is when you look at the Lost Adventures of Gary Con and you, as an example, look at the monsters. Tim knows the layout of these, but basically you have Tim's version, basically the original. Then you have AD&D 1E. Then you have 5E. And you look at the difference between a monster AD&D and a monster 5E. You
Wimp.
talk about added info and just, it is just so different. And then you start looking at pre-gen characters, AD&D versus 5e. I had trouble. I had to restrain myself going, I can't give this 5e character all of this stuff.
Yeah.
But you have to, because it goes along with the way the game of 5e plays.
Well, everything in 5e is a min-max character to begin. They've
Yes.
all got, esoteric skills and abilities that they didn't earn or anything. They just come in, they spring full bore from their foreheads that they can do all these things. And, in the old days, we had to do neat things to be able to do neat things.
Yeah.
And now they just, I won't name him. He's a movie star that I got to play in his home once. And he plays a Dragonborn.
Yes.
Well, Jesus, a first level Dragonborn's like 9th level, anything else, this is how he starts. Oh, give me a break.
Mm-hmm.
And so I played a game in his basement with him and a bunch of his friends, and I brought a bunch of AD&D, roughly ninth level characters. Oh my God, they were just appalled at how little they had at their fingertips. Compared to, you mean I have to ask questions? You don't just tell me? My intuition didn't just tell me that opens the sleep. No, you got to ask. You got to experiment. You got to stick your hand in the lion's mouth every once in a while and hope it doesn't get bit.
Yep.
That's the way the world works.
You mean they were surprised that nobody had the hand of Vecna?
Yeah. See, now those ultra uber artifacts, I don't have any place for them. I don't need those.
Infamous traps ever.
Yeah.
I have one of those on my wall right up there.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give you an example. They have a thing in 5e called passive perception.
Oh, give me a break.
I mean,
That's
literally,
like you get goosebumps on the back of your neck and you know something. Give me a break.
But that's the thing. I mean, it's definitely a different type of role playing.
Yeah,
and
they're all
a
like
whole
enlightened
mindset.
humans of some sort.
Yeah.
You know,
see, with me,
they've already got that granted to them.
Some of the most fun gaming I've ever had in D&D has been right around between 3rd and 6th level.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. That is the sweet spot for having a good time.
Absolutely, because you're still not powerful, but yet you are in some ways. You have to have pause. I mean, it's just such a great I agree. Just a sweet spot of gaming.
Well,
for me.
in OD&D, we retired characters at 9th or 10th level. We didn't play them anymore.
Yeah.
We went out in the wilderness, carved out a thing, built a keep, hired some guys, and they were retired and only were called in once in a while if we were doing a big miniatures type thing. Then you brought your troops with you and that. And we started another player. Of course, we always had 5 or 6 players going at any given time.
Yeah.
We had a stable of players. And now everybody gets so emotionally wrapped up in this made up persona that some people get clinically depressed if they think they're going to die.
Yeah. But the thing is, there's the big schism, I think, in gaming now, is that you have this mentality of, you have some of the older players who are like us, who go, I don't mind dying in my game. If I do something dumb and I die, I'm not going to be happy if I lose, of course, a powerful character. But that's just how it goes. I accept it.
Yeah, life goes on.
But
Life goes
now, I mean, people go ahead and they go, you can't kill my character. That's violent. Welcome to Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, and yet they're going into dungeons and killing monsters.
Yes.
Which is also violence.
Yep.
And the SPCA must be just having shit hissies about that. Because all those poor little orcs, all those poor little goblins, and then you get into the argument: is it lawful to kill baby monsters?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, they're monsters. You kill baby snakes just like you kill adult snakes, because they're all poisonous.
Well, we actually got in an argument one time about that with a guy. He was like, it was goblins, and they
Baby
ran
goblins.
into it was a goblin horde, not a horde. I think it was like 6 or 8 goblins, but there was a small goblin teenager, and he killed it, and or one of the players killed it, and he disagreed. He was like, "This is BS. You're killing now. You're allowing teens to be murdered." And my point to him was you just got done killing a lair of 3 large spiders.
Yeah.
How do you know one of those spiders was not a teenage spider? And he just kind of looked at you, and you can hear it like zzz, 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 in his brain.
Well,
The connection is trying to make logic of it.
Well, then you just refer to a phrase that my background is very full of, and that's kill them all and let God sort them out.
Yeah. Again, that's the whole concept of
they're
game.
intrinsically evil. I mean, the game says that they're intrinsically evil. Does that mean that one individual couldn't be raised up from puppyhood and become a pet? Sure, but that's the one exception.
But also,
Right.
the Dungeons
still
and
might murder
Dragons.
you in your sleep.
Yeah, but Dungeons and Dragons, though, as part of the game, is all about also for an individual, their moral quandary. If you see that goblin, we'll pick on goblins. If that goblin is laying on the ground and he's gasping for air and he's wounded and he's helpless, do you go ahead and render him aid? Do you let him just walk away? No, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to kill some of it.
Yeah, because he might get up, he might get better and stab you one
Exactly.
day.
But
Goblins are goblins are goblins.
yes, monsters are bad. Go ahead, Tom.
My brother, I was asking my brother about some of his experiences in the Army, and my concern in asking him questions was, I knew he was going to be in a war zone, and my concern was I want my brother to come home at all costs. The whole,
Sure.
Nobody won a war for his country by dying. You win a war for your country by making the other guy.
Now you're quoting Patton. Okay.
Patton, yes. Well,
That opening scene.
But Tim's a medic, and I was asking him. I said, what do you do if you're, I'm asking him these what ifs, and he says, well, if I'm the medic and I'm not front line, and I'm coming across a body of an enemy, I'm going to take out my 9mm. I'm going to put it to his eyeball, and then I'm going to flick the other eyeball. And if he blinks, I pull the trigger. And I thought, damn, that's cold blood. He says, no,
A medic?
He said, if we're still moving towards the objective, I don't have to take any prisoners. But once we've reached the objective and we're coming back and I find somebody, then I got to take a prisoner. But as long as we're going, that guy, if he blinks, he's playing dead. And so that means he meant to
Yeah, but a
stand up
medic,
and shoot in the back.
an armed corpsman with anything. Oh, an armed corpsman shoot and wounded anybody. My God, the Geneva Convention just got broken in about 4 different places.
Well, this is
And
somebody
I
who
understand.
appears,
I
this
understand.
is somebody who
his
appears to be
viewpoint.
dead. And so I thought, you know what? I'm okay with that because it's my brother and I want him to come home.
Yeah.
And so I mean, if that guy's playing dead, then yeah, he's.
But that's the moral quandary, though, that also can be applied into gaming from real life. Thus, I believe makes gaming, role-playing games so fun. Because although I personally, I'm just saying, I personally, have opinions as to, shooting a wounded person as an example. But it differs when it comes to gaming because number one, I know it's a game. Okay.
And number two, you like being a murder hobo. I do too.
Exactly. And
I do.
Go ahead.
Let's
Go
go ahead
ahead.
and kill everything.
Well, my character, my players in my game, they've run across too many things that have rings of regeneration and stuff. So their go-to now is cut off the heads, kick them away, and watch. If they kill something, especially magic users, any spell users,
See if they come back.
yeah, see if they start coming back together. It's like, nope. But they are so afraid. I've got my players so deathly afraid of some things that it's like
You basically
automatically,
manipulated your players into being cautious, like
Right.
they should be.
Yeah, that's a lesson they need to be learned, whether they want it or not.
And
Well,
and
they still get complacent. I've had them sit there and drop traps on them in the first 3 rooms, and then, at the end of the game, they're not thinking about it. They forget to look up, and I drop another trap on top of them, and it kills half of them. So,
Go ahead, Tom. You're saying?
well, how many of us have slaughtered all those little kobold children in the caves of chaos that were non-combatants and
No,
couldn't
not
harm
me.
you? And
I brought them gummy bears.
Nits make lice.
Yes.
Okay, nits make lice.
yeah,
You don't
That
not
is-
squish.
You know what? I'm
Nits.
sorry, Tim. I gotta write that shit down. I'm using that one now. That one is a good one. I'm using that in the game.
Well, I can't
mean-
claim it as an original, but nits make lice, so you kill them all, and they don't grow up 12 years later harboring a grudge against you, seeking to hunt you down in the dark of night and slaughter you in your cheesy bed in a cheesy tavern you have to be sleeping in.
Yep.
That's a great consequence.
Yeah, as RPG Grandma say, you like surviving bad stuff. Yeah, of course we love to, because having survived, whether it's real life or in a game, you're subconsciously puffing your chest out a little bit more. I got through that. I'm that way about cancer.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cancer didn't kill me, so yeah, I kind of puffed my chest. Yeah, I'm cancer free.
But the thing is, your cancer could have killed you.
Oh yeah,
And that's the thing about D&D when
yes, it
people
could have
remove
killed me.
but when you remove death from it.
what's the point?
Exactly.
Well, you might as well make it a Boy Scout or a Girl Scout game and just go explore the woods
I guess
and don't get bit by a snake.
maybe one of you three can answer this for me because I can't figure it out. If you remove death from D&D, let's just say 5e, death is not part of your game. How the hell do you play the game?
Well, if I can't kill them, I'm gonna capture them and put them in bondage dire or durance vile, whatever you want to call it, for the rest of their player character's life. No, they're not dead. They're going around that wheel of pain from Conan, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's where my wheel of blame came from. Yeah, they're just strapped to a wheel of pain somewhere forever. Fine, roll up a new character.
What about
I
you, Vic?
think I'd be going through some vile diseases there. I mean, there'd be some gangrene, some leprosy, and stuff like that going on really fast.
What
Well,
about
then
you,
there's
Tom?
always bad mushrooms.
I flash
Bad
back to
mushrooms. There you go, Tim.
to-
Very bad mushrooms. Permanent
playing the
psychosis.
Caves of Chaos with my daughter, and she must have been about 6 or 7 years old. And so part of their mission was to sort out the lizard men in the swamp. They're kind of southeast of the keep.
Okay.
And when she encountered the lizard men, she scolded them. She goes, "You lizard men, stop being bad." And I'm sitting there as a game master going, I don't know what the hell to do with this.
Yeah. Well, and I don't mean this as a criticism. I wouldn't run a kid that young through something that life or deathy. There's ways you can run, adventures for little kids that are not. They can still screw up.
Yeah.
And they can still have a bad outcome. But I wouldn't put them up, against a bunch of ogres. But I might give them a bunch of goblins where they have a chance.
Mhm.
But I'd be very careful. And I have been with my grandchildren and now working on my great grands. I've been very careful not to make them bloodthirsty little bastards.
Mhm.
Just kill everything. Because boy, that's not going to get them anywhere, in real life. So
Well,
I don't want to
thi-
put that in them now when they're young.
But I think there's where the subtle art of being the dungeon master comes into play, because a dungeon master worth their salt, I think, can go ahead and take an existing. You can even take, I believe, an existing module, and you can say, I'm going to modify this on the fly as we play, or even prepare for it, based upon the age of my players, but also to the counter to maybe the likes of my players.
Well, I don't think you're doing young players a disservice if you lighten up, dilute, if you will, an
Mhm.
adventure, because the challenge should be commensurate to the player's ability. You
Mhm.
don't throw a bunch of 3rd and 4th level players up against the ogre clan, 7 ogres that live over in the mountains. You don't do that because it's just going to be those little bitty player characters smeared all over those ogres' clubs and the bottoms of their feet.
Yeah.
But you can give them something else that is more commensurate with their abilities. And then as they've become an experienced game player and they've learned some think around skills, I like to call them, now you can give them sturdier challenges that could certainly kill them.
Mhm.
But hopefully you've taught them enough how to think around, okay, I'm screwed unless I do, and that's what I look for.
Mhm.
You're training
I look
fight
for
or
that to
flight
happen.
instinct in 'em.
What's that,
teaching
Vic?
him you're teaching him the fight or flight instinct. Do you have enough to accomplish the fight without getting too badly mauled? Or do you
Yeah,
just
and I've occasionally said, "Are you sure you want to attack them?"
Mhm.
I don't even ask that anymore. I just let them if they want to attack, fine. They're gonna get if they get wiped out, it's zero problem. My players all know you got what you need. Run. If it's getting that bad, just get the heck out of there.
Yeah.
Don't
Live
play
to fight
around.
it. Well, the watchword at Lake Geneva was "Live to fight another day."
Yeah.
Mhm.
We'd set out to play a campaign game and quit after an hour. We still had a couple hours available, but no, circumstances had put I think we're going to call it a night right here and either
Mhm.
lick our wounds or go count our cash, whichever the case may be. But I believe the DM has every right to either truncate an adventure or to let it keep going.
Now, speaking of that type of idea, Tim, I'm going to ask you a question because you were there in the day.
Yeah, I was there.
You
Me
were
and
there.
Aslan, we were there when the rules were written.
Yep. Now,
I love that meme. I share it again every once in a while because I get guys that argue with me and I go, dude, I wrote that rule. What are you going to argue with me about?
the funniest thing I ever seen was a couple weeks ago when the guy said, "Who the hell is Tim Kask with D&D?"
Well, how young was he? If he's under 30, he's got no way of knowing who I
Yeah,
am.
I guess I got to be a little a little fair with them.
Yeah, I
Nah,
mean,
emotionally, I won't be
that
fair with
doesn't
them,
bother
but
me.
okay.
You know, that doesn't bother me. I wrote some of 5 editions ago.
hmm
I wrote some of O and I wrote some of First.
hmm
And now these guys are playing something that hardly looks like what I wrote.
Yeah.
So there's that detachment, that distance. Doesn't bother me.
Now, question for you:
And
Were
now
you?
if they're going to just, oh, fuck him, it's an old dude. Well, no, then I will take umbrage at the fact that you didn't
Yeah.
bother to see who maybe I might have an opinion worth listening to. Maybe.
Now, were you with TSR when Tomb of Horrors was written?
I had nothing to do with that.
Yeah. No, but
I take no blame for the Tomb of Horrors.
Okay,
that was
but-
Gary and Brian, and they were
So-
working on that while I was there. Yes.
Okay,
And
but-
I died in it several times playtesting it. Yes. One night was one of those nights that 40 minutes into the game, we were all dead. So fuck it.
that's the reason why I was going to ask you. I was going to ask, Tomb of Horrors is, of course, a notoriously famous module.
It's a TPK mill.
Absolutely.
But
What
it
is
can
your-
be beaten. You can beat the Tomb of Horrors. Lots
Yeah.
of people have. Now, they may have died 7 times till they figured it out, but it can be beaten.
Or they
And
bought the damn
I have
module and read it
seen-
before they played.
I have seen groups at a convention that somebody's running Tomb of Horrors. They just waltz through it. They always take the correct beneficial turn, left or right. They always take they'll just waltz right through it and get the other side and they go, oh, shit, I heard this was hard. Well, you just had the most incredible series of lucky circumstances ever.
Oh, I've seen people roll 5 natural 20s in a row, and you're like, I want to look at your dice, you
Yeah.
know?
Okay,
But
got
I guess
one thing
with
to say about the Tomb of Horrors, and you
Go
might
ahead.
find this a little humorous. I giving my group adventures, and I'm just sort of milling around. I copied the picture of the Tomb of Horrors, and I put it in my thing, and I said, "Oh, you guys find a tomb," and I pull up this picture, and I said, "This is what you see." Immediately, 3 of the players on the thing say, "Tomb of Horrors, run!"
Well, when I have that guy that rolls 520, I use this. It's a little T-square made for
Oh.
dice.
Yep.
And if I don't get 6 good sides, that dice goes bye-bye, or however many sides. Now, I can tell you a dice story from back in the day when we used to order them 5,000 at a time in a box of mixed colors. We take 20 or 30. We had this sink in the back room downstairs at the house, and it had a sloping drain part on it. So we would set up a board, and we'd take 20 or 30 dice, and we'd roll them down the board. And everything that rolled like a 15 or higher, we'd pick those out, dump the others, roll them down again. And so the ones that consistently rolled high, we'd set aside. The ones that consistently rolled low, we'd set aside. Because they were very crappy, imperfect dice, injection molded. And I busted Gary. He was, he had to make a roll, and he reached for his yellow die. He says, no. Roll the penguin, Gary. Because we all knew that the yellow one rolled nothing but high numbers. It was a bad die. This was before game science or any of those, much better dice. And I had dice that I always relied on for a low number. Back in the day. Now I got better dice now, and I don't think I have any like that. Or if I do, it's just superstition. But we used to do that. We'd go through 300 dice to find 15 high rollers and 15 low rollers. Yeah, we had 4,700 more in the box we could have gone through. We used to get 3,000 and 5,000 in a box, and there was this big, shitty, corrugated, cheap-ass corrugated cardboard box. That by the time it got from China to us was already it's not really a square anymore. It's got a and we had one of those. They delivered it. We got it as far as the top of the steps down to the basement where we did all the assembly and where we stored everything, and it broke. The box broke. We had 3,000 dice go down into the basement at the old gray house, and we were finding dice 3 years later we'd move a pallet that hadn't been. Hey, here's 4 more of those dice.
Yep.
And they were, they were what you could get. Other than the Japanese standard dice, that's all there was. And then the Japanese Standards Association made a set of 5 polys that were guaranteed to be accurate and true. And I had a set of those. I sold them a few years ago for a stupid amount of money because I still had the little box that came in and everything. But other than that, if you had a set of Japanese standard dice, you knew you were getting fair rolls. Anything else, and we used dice boxes, dice towers. In fact, I'm told by other people that I was the first one to do that down in college because we only had 1 set of dice. And so everybody had to use them. So the dice box and the dice got passed to whoever needed them. They dropped them through the box. That way there was no palming of D4s or, funny stuff like that. It was the best randomizing we could do with the quality of the dice that we had.
Yeah.
And now, of course, everybody and their brothers selling dice towers.
Yeah.
And that's good because that takes the suspicion out of you fudged that roll. No, you dropped it in the tower just like I dropped mine into the tower. And the tower take the hindmost.
Yeah, that goes into like the dice rules of the table. Like I have a house rule that says, if you roll the dice and it falls off the table, you're re-rolling it. It has to be on the table.
Yep.
Very
Always.
simple rule.
And
Now-
sometimes, and I find if they do that persistently, that one die keeps falling off, you got to roll them all. And that usually stops it right there. You got to re-roll them all.
Yeah.
And that will.
Now,
Now,
go ahead.
I was, because I was into Dungeons and Dragons and I was collecting dice, somebody in the family said, here, you might like to have these. And they gave me my grandfather's dice for cheating at craps. And
loaded dice.
Loaded six-siders.
Loaded six-siders.
They weren't loaded like they were weighted. It was that one die would always roll a 6 because all 6 sides had a 6 on it, and the other die had 5s and 6s on it.
Hey, if you can find anybody that stupid, I'll come play for crap.
I'm at the table too. I'll come.
Yeah.
And so you had those
Talk about
dice,
feeling.
but then you had two normal dice. But I could never figure out, how do you the sleight of hand, to be able to palm the dice and
Get those onto the table.
So I never mixed them in with my D&D dice, and they eventually went missing in a move somewhere along the way. But
Well, I have dice I won't even roll anymore. I have a pair of jade dice. They're made out of high quality jade gemstone.
Oh,
Ooh,
nice.
nice.
My wife bought them, and all the pips are filled in with gold leaf. My wife
Nice.
bought these out of a Brooks Brothers catalog probably 40 years ago.
Brooks Brothers?
Yeah,
I
Brooks
remember
Brothers.
Brooks Brothers.
Yes.
Yes, and these were gentlemen's dice or something, whatever. And at the time they were like $5, which would be like $50 today. And I don't use those anymore. And I have 3 dice that are handmade of all semi-precious stones from Peru that I acquired from a friend. All of them have different sides. Some of them have circles, some of them have diamonds, some of them have squares and different things, but they're all made of semi-precious stones set in jade. And, they got silver inlays and stuff. And I won't roll these anywhere except on a felt table, and I don't really care if they're true or not. They're just pretty. They're handmade. They're pretty. And, if you can't keep it, if you're going to collect dice and you can't have some that just you like them because they're pretty, well, find another hobby.
Now, speaking of modules, okay, Tomb of Horrors. We all know that. Just real quickly, we've been on here almost 2 hours. So
Not me.
not you. You've been on here about an hour. But I'm curious with everybody. Tom, Vic, I'll start with you, Tom. What is your favorite module from D&D?
Oh, B10, Night's Dark Terror. I just love that whole siege encounter at the beginning where they show up and they're trying to deliver these horses to this little tower and manor house, and the orcs have it besieged, and so they got to try to break through the block, the siege, and get into the tower and help defend it. I thought was the coolest thing ever. I loved it.
What about you, Vic?
Vault of the Drow.
Ooh. Yeah, it's hard to beat that for lethality with anything except the Tomb of Horrors.
That
What
one,
about-
that one, just about killed me. That one was just. Oh my god!
So you have a sadistic panache and
Yeah, hurt me,
sentimental
mommy,
value.
hurt me.
Yeah. What about you, Tim? What's your favorite?
Village of Hamlet,
Village of Hamlet.
because it's outdoor. There's a whole village to interact with lots of role playing,
Mm-hmm.
and I was Jeru.
Ah,
In all the playtesting, I was the Druid of the Grove. And on the nights I wasn't able to make it to a playtest, they made up more filthy verses about Tim the Lusty Druid and all the avoiding he did with the animals of the woods. Apparently, I've got little half Tims out there everywhere, half this, half that.
did you help design the new Baldur's Gate that just came out?
No, and no, I don't have anything to do with video games. I play.
I was actually being a smart ass because it's famous because now I guess you can become you can have sex with bears in the game now. Really?
Oh well, that by God, there's a selling point.
Oh,
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah,
You oughta
next time I'm looking for an RP, can I have sex with animals? No, well, I don't want it.
Yep. That's what they do.
I
With
can't
me,
molest the cows. Come on.
yep. I think with me it's Descent to the Depths of the Earth.
Well, they all have a certain finality to them if you don't play them right.
Well, I'll tell you another one I like that I think that not many people have even played, and that's the Sentinel. The UK version of the module.
I think I got a copy of it. I don't think I've ever played it.
Yeah.
Now I can. I'll also add that I really, really like Against the Giants.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't necessarily the best written ever, but it was the first one that we produced. And the story behind it is it was made to be 3 rounds of a big tournament. The big tournaments used to make TSR huge amounts of money. We'd go to Detroit, and I believe that we got most of the entry fee. So if they're
Okay.
paying $8 to get into the game, we got like 6 of it.
Mm-hmm.
TSR did, not the convention. So we were making several $1,000s at every con we went to on the tournaments that we ran.
Oh, wow. And back then,
Yeah,
that
several
was-
$1,000. Well, we were selling $10 boxes of games and making, $6,000 running a 3-round tournament at Detroit that had 400 and some people to start.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did it for the purpose of no subjectivity. It's all objectivity. We did that because we were running out. We couldn't get any more DMs. And to try and get DMs to judge things the same way is not going to happen. We're all subjective. I think that this thing they did is really good and should get them on to the next level. Well, nobody else did. So, okay, here it is. G1, when the last round, the next morning, because we had rounds starting into the evening. There were so many players, and we were running groups of 9.
Oh,
Okay.
wow. That's a big group.
Well, that was common back then because we wanted to get as many admissions as we could. And I mean, we lived on that, and that's what the company worked on. That was the float. And the next morning, Saturday morning, when the second round started, B1 went on sale, or G1 went on sale at the table. Sold them out. And obviously, the majority of them were not people that were in it. They just heard about it.
Yeah. They heard
And
the chatter.
so they went through the second round, B2. And when the last group for the third round started the game, we put them on sale at the table and sold them all out. We sold all 3 of those games out we thought we were being, well, we really didn't want to have that many printed, but we needed to print that many for the price break.
Mhm.
It was that significant, and we sold them all. Went back and ordered a whole new print run on all 3 of them.
Yep.
And the printer's just like, wonderful. He's over the roof, you know.
Mhm.
For that reason, I like that because it's a progressive railroad, but it has a purpose. It has a goal. You know, it's tough getting there. The Hall of Fire Giant King. My God, whew, that's right there next to some of the Tomb of Horrors when it comes to tough.
Mhm.
And we wanted to show that, hey, this is how we're going to do it from here on. We weren't saying this is how you should, but this is, you know, we wanted to set a standard that was so sterling that everybody would imitate it. We were Judges Guild just couldn't keep up with what we needed. We were still authorizing their stuff and signing off on it. I did a lot of that while I was there, but we wanted to have control of our own stuff and write it for a specific purpose. And Tomb of Horrors was written to be a TVK, awful, bloody, gruesome TVK that we knew would be talked about for years.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, it was just so horrible. Oh my God, you know, people are going to be walking, their player characters walking around shell shocked for years.
Yeah,
we did it on purpose.
So this is why the RPGA was the thing to promote the convention play.
Yeah. That's why they started doing the tournament modules. The RPGA started producing tournament modules, and they produced quite a few. That was what was played. You had a objective means of measuring each group's success or failure, and we kept bottom line, we kept people signing up for these games because they felt, okay, well, I didn't do very well, but it was fair. They'd sign up for the next one, and we were making, well, between that and the float on Gen Con, back when it took 3 to 7 days for a check to clear, we lived on that float. That's how we published whatever was coming out at Gen Con. It was on the pre-reg that we already had for Gen Con. We would use to give to the printer, who would then print our next great thing that we would come out with at Gen Con. We did that on the float. Can't do that now.
Now, Tim, are you aware? I mean, I'm trying to find it real quick. Are you aware of this new tabletop game authority thing? What it is I think they're kind of going off the RPGA a little bit. It's basically I'm trying to find it. It was on Twitter, and I
recognize no authority.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. They talk.
I don't.
I'm trying to find out what it's called, but it's like the TTGA. They're
I think I saw something about that, and I thought at the time,
yeah,
how fucking pretentious is that?
Well, that I asked them because they're like Designers Unite, designers and publishers join us, and I've asked them like 10 times, how much does it cost, and what are the benefits as a publisher do I get or an artist joining you? And they don't want to answer the question.
Well, because there is no gain for you. If they can't extol one or two virtues at the very least, then there are none.
Yeah.
And it's not worth your time or your effort.
Yeah. So, well,
BoardGameAuthority.com.
Yeah, it's I can't find it. I seen it on Twitter earlier, and I saw it on Facebook.
Just posted it
a few times.
Yeah,
no,
I just posted it.
Oh, you did?
Victor just posted it. Board Game
Authority. That was an easy one to find. I was looking at it before, and I was sort of laughing at their.
Well, my whole thing is their premise. They come out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're born out of some godling's head, and they're the authority.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe, but oddly enough, I don't recognize any of those names.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I've literally been around since gamers crawled up out of the mud.
Yeah,
these are just like some of these everyday trade associations. They think they've got it by the cat's meow, and guess what? You don't really need them. All it is you're all glad handing one another at a convention to waste money. It's just B's and B, S's and S, and I've seen them.
Oh, you're talking about Origins. Yeah, Origins was formed to be the anti-Gen Con.
Yeah, it was the anti-Gen Con. Yeah,
because TSR was sucking up 60% of the if they started limiting how many games we could run and how many people because we were sucking too many players out of the general attendance.
Mm.
And then the GAMA, the Game of they fought for years not to let TSR in. They finally had to because it was stupid to have that's behemoth not be part of it. I've never had. I went to several of the early Origins. I was not impressed. They were pale imitations of what we've been doing much better for years in Lake Geneva. If they wanted to be a good thing, they should have come up and taken some notes.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't.
Well, why would they want to do that, Tim? Imitation.
So they could do it well, and it was about having a con on the East Coast and not everybody not having to travel to the Midwest. That was a legitimate reason to think about doing something like that.
Yeah.
Because this new hobby is building, and all of us producers, we want to, throw logs on that fire and keep it going. And so,
absolutely,
they ended up with Gen Con in California, and Gen Con on Pluto. I don't know. They had them everywhere. That was long after I was there. But it was a viable business model for TSR to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But then the faces of the conventions changed, and TSR was no longer getting the huge amounts out of the entry fees.
Mm-hmm.
Now the entry fees are going to the organizers.
Yep.
Oh, well, whole new motivation or lack thereof.
On that note, Don, you're organizing a convention for next year.
Yeah, WizardCon in Battle Creek.
How big is that?
I'm planning to come up there.
Yes.
I'll be there with my wife. And that's very rare.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm serious. Wife's only ever been to one convention with me. That was AppleCon out in Maine.
Me and Tina will take real good care of you guys. Trust me.
Well, I'm worried about her being entertained. As long as she's happy, she doesn't care what I'm off doing.
Tina loves Mahjong.
There you go.
So how many people is your convention organized for?
Well, at this point we have enough. There's going to be about 105 vendor spaces available. Along with that, the venue itself can hold up to 4,000 people.
And I think it's but Don and I we both agree that that's a pie in the sky number.
Absolutely, it is.
You never get that many vendors.
Yep. But
I think if you want to start a good con get some legs under it, you aim for about 500 people to show up the first year. And if you do that, and they had enough fun, the true meaning of viral marketing will kick in. The same way that TSR spread the word of Dungeons and Dragons. Come to Gen Con, buy a box, take it home, teach your 12 buddies. They buy a box, they teach, and that's how D&D, took off.
And that's how we're going to handle this con. What we're going to be doing is, what's nice about the Kellogg Arena, where we're going to be at, is not only do you have the centralized arena, but because they do this is a dedicated thing that they do. They do Comic-Cons there, all kinds of stuff. There's several side rooms that are available that we're going to have, like as an example, Tim's going to be running some games, private games that people can sign up for and do in a more private, intimate, quiet environment. But also we're going to be having areas such as we're working right now with Reaper Miniatures, they're thinking about sponsoring us, where we're going to have like a kids painting mini area where they can get painting minis, have a little contest for them.
You're never too young to buy more minis than you'll ever paint.
That's right. Absolutely. We're going to have a specialized area for kids who come that don't really know how to play RPGs. We're going to be introducing them to some entry level basic gaming.
Well, the best organized, and along what he's saying, and I'll interrupt for a minute.
No, go ahead.
One of the best organized cons I've ever been part of is Total Confusion. out in the Boston area.
Oh,
They've been running for 30, 35, 40 years now. And they have a lot of, they have a big attendance. They also have an entire program where a couple of the volunteers are in charge of kids games.
Yeah.
They have a couple of volunteers that are in charge of minis. They have a hall of minis. And so, there's always somebody there to ask, always somebody there to get a ruling from, an answer, not on the rules, but where are we supposed to be? What are we doing?
Yep.
They have an enormous board game. I used to love going there because I'd learn new board games by just walking around and watching for a while how a new game is being played.
Mm-hmm.
And I know whether or not I was, going to look into it further. I found it a great way to learn how to learn new games.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the RPGs. Oh God, they were everywhere.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to do. The way we just actually got our convention floor planned down, and they have it. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to have dedicated areas for tabletop gaming, wargaming. We're going to have a dedicated area for people who want to sit down at a table and play, like whether it's a board game or like Magic or card game, something like that. And then we're also going to have another separate area where they can play RPGs. They're all going to be the Kellogg Arena has a really cool thing is, of course the vendor booths are going to be curtained, but the gaming areas, because it's a big floor, it's one big area, and to keep the noise down, they actually have sound deadening portable walls that they roll in. And what it's designed to do is when you're in that area, it actually keeps the noise echo way down. So that's this table.
And one of the things that drives me craziest at any of the cons I go to is if we got 4 or 5 RPGs going in a big room, big enough, but not big enough because of the noise.
Yeah.
And I've had to get pissy a couple of times with other DMs in my room. First I go, hey man, what do you say we just try to, and no, nothing, 10 minutes later he's shouting again. And I'm not gonna sit in the game and shout over some other yoo-hoo.
Yep.
Now, as it happened at Gamehole, one of the yoo-hoos was Zeb Cook, and my group said, "Oh, all right, we'll just let his group was so goddamn noisy over in the corner, Okay, well that's Zeb, and so we gave him the respect that Zeb's due. Next time I see Zeb away from there, I'll remind him how loud he is and remind him that I can be louder. And that's terrible when you get 5 or 6 groups all shouting over each other. So that's a manners.
Yeah,
that we as a group are not very good at.
Well, that was my biggest concern, because when I first walked into the Kellogg Arena, I mean, it's this massive arena, and it's like, this is going to be loud. Yeah. And then Kelly, the lady who handles the events, goes, no, we got you covered. We've had Comic-Cons here before, and we've actually invested in these portable rolling walls. So we had to submit a plan to them basically for placement of everything. And then what they do is they actually do all the hard work for you. They put it in their CAD system, their little layout system, and they actually send you back like, this is where the walls are going to be, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The best part about all of this is the walls are 5 foot 4 inches tall. So when you stand up,
you can see
you can actually see people. Yes. So, and there's going to be, we're going to have full concessions there. The Kellogg Arena provides, basically the deal is they sell the food, they get everything from the food, but it's going to be like burgers, hot dogs, brats, ham sandwiches, grilled cheese sandwiches.
Well, as long as they're not $12 grilled cheeses, we're fine.
No, and this is the best part. That was my question for her. A cheeseburger loaded with fries is $7.
Oh, that's the best con price you'll find.
Bad. And
no, that's better than any con I've been to in the last 5 years.
Yep. And it was our option to have alcohol there. They said the very minimum we have to allow beer. So we said fine, beer, but basically you can have beer. They sell Coke and both Coke, Pepsi products, iced tea, all that good stuff.
As long as they got Mellow Yellow, I'm good.
I'm not sure. I think Mellow Yellow is a
Coke I thought it was the water, Jim, that I got here at Dave Con. We got this big case of water.
Yeah, well, those are all right too.
Yep.
I don't drink coffee, so my morning wake up is a can of Mountain Dew. What, coffee or Mountain Dew?
Can't work with you no more, Tim. Sorry, deal's off.
Okay.
Hey,
I
hey,
can't do this
Tim,
anymore.
us guys on the bottom here, the bottom of the screen are all right. I don't drink
Yeah,
coffee.
we're okay with it. Okay. Yeah, those guys up above, they think their shit don't stink.
They're the high
Yeah.
flyers up there, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know, we just
If
We-
you
we
drink
just tried-
coffee, I can't play with you anymore. So okay.
okay. but the nice
Well-
thing is the nice thing about the convention is we just tried to make it. The reason why we wanted to go Kellogg Arena was just because they kind of offer a really nice full deal package, and you know it's they are really keyed into the local news scene. They're
Is
really
anybody
keyed in-
still even watching this?
Yeah, we got 4 people right now
Oh, okay.
online watching it. Yeah,
Okay.
Well,
Well, there's
so-
4
on
of
that-
us. We
but
each get
on
one.
that-
Which one do I get?
yeah.
On that note, I'm gonna go have a cup of coffee and go to bed.
Yeah, I think we should end this. It's going on midnight and it's been almost 2.5 hours. But I appreciate everybody coming on the live impromptu.
Well, I
you know-
appreciate it. Let me crash your party.
Oh no, you are welcome anytime. All of you guys are. I think we got on some really good topics here and chatted, and hopefully people who are watching this and commenting got something out of it. So thank you, gentlemen, for coming in the live and everything. It's very, very much appreciated. And I guess we'll end it. And everybody, you guys have yourselves a good week. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Good night.
All right.
All right, guys. Good night.
See you later.